Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Chris Mielik. Hey, as I expected, this week, thanks to me figuring out something that I should have thought about a while ago, I was able to get the updates ready, a little sooner this week. What I'm going to do is out on my Google Docs page, I will put a copy of the spreadsheet, and it'll be ranked based on their average thus far. From top to bottom, as they sit, Canal Fulton Northwest would be the number one team in the region, Steubenville number 2, Indian Creek 3, Johnstown 4, Bloom Carroll 5, St. Clairsville 6, Byesville Meadowbrook 7th, and Heath would be the last playoff team at 8th. So, like I said, I'll put the spreadsheet out there. It'll be based in that order on their average points thus far. But what I want to do is actually work from their minimum points available if they were to win out. So that sounds kind of, I don't know, convoluted, or maybe potentially a little difficult to understand. But essentially what that is so from the least amount of points guaranteed if they win out to the most is how I'm gonna run them. And what that does is it kind of gives you the best view for the teams within the region as far as their ability to control their own destiny. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to run through all 28 teams in Region 13, and I'm going to point out certain matchups within the region of teams, just so you can get a feel. There are some, I guess I would consider them fairly significant impacts this week, as some of these teams face off with one another. We'll start to see some of the teams drop, some of the teams come up, and others just kind of hold steady. But so with that said, 28th points available. Like I said, they are 7th overall in the region, and that's Byesville Meadowbrook. They have guaranteed points at the end of the season of 8.99. They are actually facing off against Lisbon Beaver this week, also in Region 13. They're sitting in 22nd place in points available, or guaranteed if they would win out, with 12.216. So Beaver has not won a game yet. My guess is Meadowbrook wins that game. That's going to obviously bring Beaver's number down, and it's going to make that considerably more difficult for them, as if once they're at 0-3, it's going to be very, very tough sledding for them to get into the playoffs. So we've covered 28th and 22nd there. 27th is Uhrichsville Claymont with 10.7 guaranteed points if they would win out. I'm trying to take a look here. I thought I had them highlighted, but maybe not. They'll be facing off against a D3 opponent, and they are also without a win. So the next team up is Canal Fulton Northwest, obviously ranked number 1 in the region right now, with a guaranteed minimum of 11.05 points. They can still max out at 49.18 points. What that essentially says is Canal Fulton Northwest does not play a lot of teams that play each other, so they don't get a lot of guaranteed minimum points, but their competition is usually strong enough that it's going to get them, as long as they're winning games, they're going to get the points that they need to make the playoffs. Right above them in 25th place in minimum points available is second ranked in the region, Steubenville, with 11.32. Same kind of scenario for them as we just discussed with Canal Fulton Northwest. They actually have the most amount of points available of anyone in the region. Above Steubenville in 24th place in the region, you have Riverview. Riverview can get to 11.55 guaranteed points just by winning out. But obviously they are 0-2 and find themselves in a pretty deep hole. Above that, in 23rd place, we have East Liverpool. They'll actually be facing off against 5th in the region, Salem, or 5th in minimum points available, guaranteed minimum, Salem. East Liverpool has a guaranteed minimum of 12.212, so they're just slightly behind Lisbon Beaver versus Salem, who's sitting there with 19.8 guaranteed points if they would win the rest of their games. So let me highlight those so we can make sure I don't go back over those teams. Like I said, we talked about Lisbon Beaver. They're sitting in 22nd place. Just above them, you have Buckeye Local in 21st. Also has not won a game yet, but they do have 13.38 available points, 387 just guaranteed by virtue of winning out. Above them we have Indian Valley, who's sitting in 20th place with a guaranteed minimum points of 13.6, 29.55 max if they would win out. Indian Valley has won the one game, so they are actually tied for 14th in the region right now with 2.5 points. Just above them is New Lex. New Lex is in 19th place in guaranteed minimum points with by winning out with 14.65, but they do have a cap already down to 25.6, so it is going to be very tough for them to make the playoffs. They are obviously tied for 20th and have not won a game yet this season. Above New Lex in 18th place, I have Cambridge. Cambridge has 14.95 guaranteed points if they would win out. They actually could cap at 38.95, so they can definitely score a significant amount of computer points as the season goes on. They're tied for 14th right now in the region with 2.5 as their current average, and they'll actually be facing off against 6th place based on guaranteed minimum points, 13th in the region right now, and that's Canton South with 2.75 points right now. They would have a guarantee of 19.5 points if they would win out, and 31.5 points is their maximum potential points for the remainder of the season. That would be their total, even at the end of the season, I guess. So I shouldn't say the remainder of the season, but for the season as a whole. Okay, we got Cambridge. Now we're on to Ontario. Ontario is 0-2 as well. They're tied for 20th in the region in current points. They would be a guaranteed 15.45 points by winning out. And could max out at 29.15 points. Above Ontario is Shelby in 16th place. They're actually sitting at 11th right now in the region with 3.25 points current. They would cap out, or their guaranteed minimum by winning out is 16, and they could cap out at 33.15 points. Above Shelby, I've got St. Clairsville. St. Clairsville is actually sitting 6th in the region with 5.51 points current average. They are in 15th as far as guaranteed minimum points by winning out with 16.058. And they do have a significant amount of points that they could still score total with 41.797. Above St. Clairsville, I have in 14th place in guaranteed minimum points by winning out is Indian Creek. They're actually sitting 3rd in the region, as we talked about, at the beginning, with 5.99 points. They would be guaranteed 17.24 points if they would win out, and they could cap out at 34.95 points. Above Indian Creek is Licking Valley in 13th. So they're 12th in the region right now with a 2.95 point average. 13th would be their guaranteed minimum points by winning out at 17.45, and they would cap at 38.2 points. That's going to be this week, Licking Valley's got a pretty important matchup. They're actually taking on Bloom Carroll. Bloom Carroll is 5th right now in the region with 5.6 points. And Bloom Carroll actually caps out at 20.8, or has a guaranteed minimum points of 20.85, and would cap out at 37.2. Bloom Carroll is actually number 1 as far as the guaranteed minimum amount of points. So big game definitely for Bloom Carroll. If they win that, their minimum win points is definitely going to go up a little, I would imagine. So just by the virtue of them winning, they could all start to put themselves in a situation that just by winning out, they would guarantee themselves no worse than 25th, 24th place. As the weeks go on right now, any team could still finish anywhere from first to last within the region. So above Licking Valley, we have John Glenn. They're actually in 20th in the region. They have not won a game yet. They're 12th overall in minimum amount of points if they would win out with 18.05. But they find themselves in a very deep hole with the lowest amount of maximum points within the region, as they could only get to a top of 24.25 points. Essentially every game from here on almost becomes a must-win game for John Glenn, as they're going to find themselves digging a very, very deep hole as we get much further into the season. Above John Glenn is Johnstown. They're actually 4th in the region right now with 5.75 points. They're guaranteed 18.3 points if they would win out, and 41.6 points is their maximum. So Johnstown is in a pretty good position as we speak right now. Lakewood is 20th with no wins. They're 0-2. They are 10th in guaranteed minimum points with 18.4, and 30.15 would be their maximum amount of points they could get if they win out. Above Lakewood, we have Heath. Heath, who sits 8th in the region right now with 5 points. They're 9th in guaranteed minimum points at 18.8, and they could get a max of 37.5 points. Above Heath, I have Philo. Big matchup this week in the MVL as Philo plays Maysville. That's also pretty important here for Region 13, as Philo is 18th right now in the region with 2.25 points. They're 8th in guaranteed minimum points at 19.05, and their maximum points is 27.1. And like I said, they'll be facing off against Maysville. Maysville, who sits 9th in the region right now with 4.85 points, and they have a guaranteed minimum of 20.05 and a maximum of 29.9 if they would win out. And that actually puts them 3rd as far as guaranteed minimum points. So big game for Maysville, much like the Bloom Carroll game. If they win, they're definitely putting themselves in a position to drive kind of the region through the rest of the season there. So above them, above Philo, we have our last team without a win, and that's Minerva. Minerva is 0-2, so they're 20th and tied for 20th in the region, but they are 7th of guaranteed minimum amount of points if they would win out at 19.5. That actually ties them for 6th, and 27.2 would be their maximum amount of points available. Above Minerva, you got Fairfield Union. Fairfield Union is sitting in 14th place with 2.5 points. They would be guaranteed 20.05 points by winning out, which would put them in that tie for 3rd. And they could cap out at 32.05 points. And above Fairfield Union, we discussed Maysville. We've already discussed Bloom Carroll, who's number 1 in minimum points. And so we got number 2 left, and that's Amanda Clear Creek. They're also tied for 14th with 2.5 points. and they would be guaranteed 20.4 points if they would win out, and 32.65 maximum amount of points to win out. So there we go. That's a quick rundown of Region 13 this week. That's going into week 3. So if you have any questions or maybe a different region that you'd like me to start working on, I'm trying to catch up all the rest of the regions on their weeks 1 and 2 games. It's going to be probably a long process. It's probably going to be pretty tough for me to get another region ready, but I'm going to be taking a shot at it. If you have a specific region you'd like to hear about, just comment in the like section or comment below here on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook. Put a note on either the yappy.com or the JJ Huddle website, and let me know which ones you'd like to hear about, and that would be the ones that I guess that I will start focusing on for next week on Friday. So without any further questions, I appreciate the time, guys, and hopefully this little roundup helps you guys speak a little better about the playoff implications here in the state of Ohio. So have a good one.